All right, Jamin. So tell me about the Tuesday series.
The format has three pillars: fun, meet at least one person new, and learn one thing. So, like, super simple, but of course, you only have 30 minutes, so it's pretty fast. The first 10 minutes is listening to a guest speaker talk about something that's usually one point in a human story, and then it ends with an intriguing question. From there, the audience moves into Zoom's breakout rooms. Previous guests, had head of strategy from Procter and Gamble, co-founder of IDEO, as well as like a soon-to-be graduate into that's looking for a job in the market research space. So, yeah, we've got quite a interesting group of people, but on the speaker side. But then the audience is primarily market researchers.
That's awesome. And how is it different?
Well, you're of course familiar with like the normal frameworks of panel discussions and webinars and whatnot. So the whole meta here is centered around teaching people how to communicate. Um, I've done over 400 interviews on the Happy Market Research podcast. I've learned that storytelling is one of the biggest opportunities inside of consumer insights. So, we're really big on insights, but we tend to kind of drop the ball in terms of insights that matter inside of the organizations. No offense to my colleagues and friends and loved ones. Um, if you think about, though, the measure of a good presentation, it isn't the charts and graphs because those are abstract. It's more, or it's not even like the 10 things that we need to do today. It's more about what the audience says about your presentation in the virtual or physical water cooler slash Slack, right? So it's how they're able to retell what they heard you say. Um, so stats don't change organizations, people do. And that is why we have to learn to communicate with less words and more interactions, I believe. And that's how you build stories that change businesses, communities, behaviors in our industry.
That's great. And who is attending these events?
Anybody can attend. It's predominantly consumer insights professionals. We have between 50 to 90 researchers that show up from around the world in every Tuesday. And I'm hoping that number eclipses 200 by the end of the year.
Wow. Now, for the speakers, what's the format?
It's challenging. um, so if you were to take a second and think about the top 5 lectures or webinars that impacted your life, for most of us, that's a daunting task. It's really hard to come up with 5. But if you think about the 5 people that have been most influential in you, have had the biggest impact, that's a lot easier. And I believe that the reason why is because impact happens at the point of exchange, not knowledge dumping. So it's when there's some level of interaction that takes place. So we don't learn when we just, like, you think about like the college lecture framework, which is still how we're being quote unquote trained. You know that format just doesn't work. Our format is different because we spend a third of the time listening, and then we spend 2/3 of the time actually interacting. So the guest only has 10 minutes or less to be able to give their point of view. Millennials, their attention span's 12 seconds. Gen Z, it's down to 8 seconds, according to Microsoft. And while you think like 10 minutes isn't a lot of time, if you think of it in context of an 8-second segment, that's 75 8-second segments in 10 minutes. That's a lot of, like, that's hard when you actually start crafting a message to fill that up effectively, right? So the issue isn't that you can't talk longer than that. The issue is that people simply can't listen that long. And I think that we have a hard time being honest about that, especially, if we're somebody that people care to listen to, right? So, just to reiterate, you need to be concise. You need to make one point as a speaker. You need to have some human story to back it up that people can connect with. And you need to end with a challenge or a group discussion question.
That's great. I mean, since I've been attending, we've covered such a wide range of topics from, self-care to data weighting. What topics do you think are the most interesting to the attendees so far?
I really think anything that you're passionate about and also knowledgeable about is very interesting. So our guests, they've covered innovation. We had one guy who invented the mouse with Steve Jobs. And then his question, I know, and then his question was, what is one innovation that we can employ to make it easier for people to provide feedback? Right. So like super tactical in the crosshairs of market research, but his sort of expertise isn't in market research. Um, Later this year, we have a student that's presenting. This is somebody that is taking their first steps into the job market. The audience is going to be on the edge of their seats for that presentation. It isn't that they have this like massive body of experience that they're bringing to the table, but they have eyes that all of us can relate with. And especially when you're in a job environment like we are right now, where there's just not enough people to fill the jobs, you really care a lot, about what this upcoming market research cohort is going to look like. So it's really all about like owning where you are as a speaker, um, and what you care about.
That's so true. For people who are looking to join, what would you tell them makes this different from other networking events out there?
The attendees are what make it different. So they're all very motivated. They make the most of their time together, albeit it's brief. They take conversations well beyond the 30 minutes. In fact, I just was speaking today with a qualitative researcher. She meets somebody new every single week, and then she makes it a point to DM them on LinkedIn. And then does a virtual coffee with at least one person there. So she's expanding her network by 1 to plus every single week, all in the context of the virtual lunch. So it's all about like having fun, building relationships with others inside of our industry.
That's amazing. How do people sign up for the Tuesday series, both, to attend, but also if they want to speak?
DM me on LinkedIn for an invite. And if you do want to be a speaker, I would love to talk with you about that. Have a point of view, have an idea that you want to broach and think is relevant for the audience. I'd also say if you want to be a speaker, it's really important that you attend at least one of the sessions. We're big believers in the sort of for the community by the community. Um, we're a community of market research professionals, so be part of it. Come join us. We would absolutely love to see you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jamin.